Hello, hello, and welcome back to another installment of Unlocking Sibelius. We are nearing the end, rounding third, and we're almost to the end of this thing. I don't know if this video is going to be in two parts, depends on how long it is, but we'll see when we get there. So in this section of the video, of the series I should say, we're looking at your DAW. Now, there's a few disclaimers here. Unfortunately, I don't think this works with every DAW. And the determining factor of whether it'll work in your DAW or not is this right here. You see, you need to be able to control your instrument's input, meaning where it's coming from, what's using it, and its output, or input, output. Yes. So you have to be able to control that. If you cannot control that, then this probably won't work for you. I've tried this, and this is Studio One that I'm using right here. I'll show you Pro Tools in a second. And I've seen it work in Cubase as well. That's because they have this option to manipulate what the input is and what the output is. So very, very, very important that you are able to control that. If you can't, you're gonna have to find a workaround that I don't know of yet. Secondly, is you need to get familiar and comfortable with virtual MIDI cables. Now, what virtual MIDI cables are exactly what they sound like. Virtual MIDI cables. They connect one piece of software to another and just transmit MIDI data. That's it. And that's how we will be connecting Sibelius and your DAW together. So if you're using Mac, then virtual MIDI cables are already innate into the Mac OS thing, which is nice. One positive thing about Mac. But if not, if you're using the better option, a PC, you're gonna want to get this loop MIDI. And with this, all this is it just you make virtual MIDI cables, and it'll show up in all your DAWs or programs, anything. You see, I have a lot of virtual MIDI cables. That's because I have a lot of uses, specific uses for each one of them. So once you download this, pause the video if you need to, but get this because it's paramount to it. And for Mac users, I believe it's in audio options or something like that. It's got some weird name, but essentially what you're going to want to do is, once you do have it set up, is you're going to want to make one virtual MIDI cable for each of your instrument groups. So in our case, we're only doing 4, right? We're doing woodwind, strings, percussion, and brass. Those are the only sections we're doing. Those are the only ones you need. And you need to make sure that it's enabled that all 16 channels are open. I think for loop MIDI, it automatically does it. Yeah. There's nothing else I have to do to unlock it. You just type in the name, loop MIDI port, and press plus, and you'll see it appears at the bottom of your list. And then to delete it, go like that. And if you ever get a feedback loop, you'll know because a pop-up will come, or you just won't hear any sound for some inexplicable reason. Just click on the channel. In loop MIDI's case, it'll turn red, and then just hit that. You see? So that's all you need to do. So make those 4 virtual MIDI cables once you download Loop MIDI, and I think I'll put the link in the description box below. So once you have that, we are ready to get started. As I said, you need input, output control. You need to be able to control those in your DAW, as well as have access to virtual MIDI cables. If you don't have that, then this will not work for you. So here we have it in Pro Tools, and just like I said, I'm able to control the input. Oh, this is the output, one of the two. And one of them, hold up, let me hover over it. So MIDI input, and the bottom one is the output. Okay, so you can control that in Pro Tools, meaning you can do this process, but I'm gonna go back to Studio One. And just in case anyone's using it, Cakewalk also has this capability right here: brass, percussion, strings, woodwinds. And then you have your instrument. Reopen it up. all good. So Cakewalk also does it too. Now, once that you have all 4 of your virtual MIDI cables set up, we're now make sure that they're enabled in your settings. So here, for Studio One, it's external devices. It's the same type of thing with Pro Tools and Cakewalk. They're all, these DAWs are very similar to each other. So you see down here, I named it a little bit differently, but as you can see in the receive from, we have woodwinds, brass, percussion, and strings. You can see, like I said, I have a lot more. So, but those are the 4 that we want. And let me just go through it on here. What you would do is, for Studio One, you would go to New Keyboard, type in the name. I call it ReWire. And then you would type in the name of the channel. Like I said, I called it Woodwind Group. And it's important to name it something a little bit different than what the name of like your virtual MIDI cable is. So I noticed that when I first started, I named them both the same. So they were both woodwinds, and I would often get confused about where they were. So as long as I knew where one was, receiving the signal, and one was the actual MIDI cable, that's all you need to differentiate. So I call it Woodwind Group. Allow all the MIDI channels received from, here we go, woodwinds. Yeah, I know. It's just saying I already have one. So yeah, woodwinds. So Woodwind Group, woodwinds, there's a difference there. Split channels, if you have that option. And that's it. Then you would hit OK. And you end up with this. See, same thing that we just did. But you would do that for all 4. And as you can see, these are all virtual MIDI cables. After that, everything else here is virtual MIDI cables. Okay, this is the last chance to pause the video and get everything configured, because we're going to jump right into this. Make sure that your MIDI channels are properly configured and that they're activated within your DAW. After that, everything I'm going to be doing as far as setting up instruments and, routing and everything, that's going to be dependent on you guys. You guys should know how to work your own DAW, right? But the stuff that we're going to be talking about with virtual MIDI cables setting up is Sibelius, ReWire, all that stuff. I'm going to take it slow. Okay? So, like I said, blazing right through this. The first thing that we're going to add is the Woodwind Group. And for this, hold up. Oh, yeah. For this, I like to do this. I like to just throw in the instrument first, load it up. So we will load Symphony Winds, the preset that we worked on in part 1, Contact. Make sure that everything's purged. Boom, good, 0. And then I'll delete the channel, but not remove I'll remove the track, but not the channel, the instrument. After that, now we can add woodwinds, 4 instruments, blue, color-coded. I like color-coded stuff. Input is going to be from the Woodwind Group, starting on channel 1. And you see I have ascending click, so it'll assign 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So I want to do that. Then we're going to have an existing instrument, and we're going to do the same thing, ascending from channel 1. And since we already set this up way back in part 1, it's just going to line up everything perfectly for us. Now watch this. Flutes, oboes, clarinets, and bassoons. Boom. Channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's open up this instrument. Absolutely. Channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. All good. But notice this. Notice this. Watch. That sound I'm making, that you're hearing, that's me hitting the keyboard. Even though the flutes are enabled, there's no sound coming out. So how do we fix that? For one thing, it's the fact that we went in Contact and made the output channels for each individual instrument. That's why we're not hearing anything out of it. Well, beyond that, it's mostly because our input isn't our keyboard. But even still, you can see that there's MIDI signal coming in, but nothing coming out, right? So let me move this back. Woodwind group, channel 1, all good. Then I'm going to open up the mixer. I'm going to open it up wide. First of all, I'm going to rename this Woodwinds, just so I know. And then I'm going to open up these channels. Your DAW might not have to do this, but mine does. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Woodwind group. Flutes, oboes, clarinets, and bassoons. Like that. And that's pretty much it. Once you activate those channels, it should now be able to have sound come through. So I'm going to put this back down and watch. I'm going to make my keyboard the flutes. I don't know if you can hear that, to be honest, but you could definitely see the signal in the flutes of MIDI coming in and the audio signal as well. So that's how you get it to come out. And then you could create a group out of it. So that's it. That's it for the woodwinds. Let's go with brass next. I'm going to throw in this. Load up the brass. Yes. It's going to be the same thing with this. So you guys are going to get a lot of chances to see how this works. So I'm going to add, and this one I will leave blank. I'll leave it all on default right now, and then I like red for brass. So brass, we got what's first? Let's look at the instrument. Oh, we don't have any instruments connected to it. And it's inside the woodwinds. Okay. So let's add this. Okay, horns first, then trumpets, trombones, tuba. Got it. You see it's grayed out right here? Because nothing's being used. Alright, so horns, trumpets, trombones, tuba. Okay, so look carefully now. Look carefully. For the output is going to what I named brass. So it's that instrument called brass, and it's going to be on channel 1. And then the input, what signal is coming in to give this instrument its sound, is going to come from the brass section, your brass virtual MIDI cable. And it's also on channel 1. We're going to do the same thing. Brass. And you see I name mine a little bit differently. I call mine brass station, or brass section. Yeah. This one's on channel 2. Trumpets are on channel 2. That's why I keep saying do things in score order, because it makes just lining up everything so much easier. Because once you know that trumpets are on channel 2, everything's going to be channel 2. Same for trombones. Channel 3. Easy. Brass section. Channel 3. Channel 3. Tuba, because it's in score order, I know it's the last one and it's the 4th one. Boom. Boom. Channel 4. Channel 4. And then let's open up that mixer, activate those 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what I was talking about in the earlier videos about in part one specifically, about like DAWs. They perceive channels 1 and 2 as the main one, and so you see channel 1 and 2 is already activated, and I'm essentially unlocking channels 2, 3, 4, and 5. But in our case, it's gonna, because we routed it correctly, everything's gonna line up just right. Horns, trumpets, trombones, and tuba. Boom. So let's test this. Let's test this with the trumpets, just so we can hear. Ooh, gotta turn it on. I accidentally changed all of them to the keyboard, so they all played and blew my ears off. All right. Just that one. As you can see, it's all working order, so we're good. Going to update, reset markers, and update the sample pool again to leave it at 0. Because I do that because we're going to save this as a preset, and certain sections along the way I would definitely want to save it. We could close these folders to save on some space. Whoa. Close that. Let's get the percussion in here. And I hope you guys saw my part 2.5 where we were dealing with the sound set editor and specifically the drum mapping tab, because that came in handy with this particular instrument, the orchestral percussion kit. So I'll show you when we get to Sibelius. But we have how many instruments? 8 instruments. All right, easy enough. We'll call this percussion. 8 instruments. I like white. And then, as you can see, I named mine something a little bit differently, just so I know. Let me see if I could show you guys what I mean. So, I hate that if you hover over something for too long. Okay. So you see right here where it says woodwind group and then woodwinds. If you selected woodwinds on the woodwind group stuff, it would have like a feedback loop. So that's why I say name it something just a little bit different so you know the difference. If your setup is much like Studio One's is. Oh, because I didn't name it. I named it. Its name is Complete Control. So yeah, that's it right there. So percussion battery, channel 1, and then Complete Control, channel 1. And you see it lit up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inputs. Timpani, orchestral percussion kit. Ooh, Glock, xylophone, marimba. There we go. Vibraphone, tubular bells, and less. I believe that's right. Timpani, OPK, Glock, Xylo, Vibes, Marimba, Tubular Bells, Celesta. Cool. Excellent, excellent. I like things to be proper. And then lastly, easy enough. Oh, we gotta rename it right here. Excellent, excellent. And I'll probably recolor these, so yeah, but whatever for now. Lastly, pull that back up. Let's name this the last and probably most used orchestral section, the strings. Again, watch part 1, guys. If you want to see This is so powerful how quickly it loads. You just save so much time not doing individual instruments. You just got your ensemble. Watch part one. Watch part one. That's all I'm going to say. Let's rename this strings. Now watch. I'm gonna show you what I was talking about before, because I don't think it was very apparent. There's 5 different strings, and I like them to be yellow. Input. Okay, so I named the channel in Studio One String Orchestra, but the virtual MIDI cable itself is just called strings, just to keep things simple. So, like I said, yeah, I named my wood toys lumberyard. Okay, so you see right here, I can't stay on it too long, but you see string orchestra and then strings. If I did that and then this again, that would create a feedback loop. It'd be playing into itself, you know? So that's why I say name the device something a little bit different. So ascending, string orchestra, strings, boom. And then we can name this violin 1, violin 2, violas. And do you guys name these cello or celli when you have it as a group? I go back and forth. But that's it. We just did the whole orchestra. Wait, not done yet. Not done yet. 1 second. Open up the mixer. Enable 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let's rename this strings. Violin 1, violin 2, violas, cello, and basses. Alright. And we are done. That is the entire setup in your DAW. As long as you have that, we are good to go on to the next step. The next step is going to be activating ReWire within our DAW. So there's a few ways to do this. ReWire usually comes as a plugin, and you just have to put it onto an instrument track or something and just throw it on, just throw it into your session, just like that. You see, I think I have it as a preset because I always color it purple for Sibelius. But once you have that, like, it's good. That's all. That's all ReWire is. And I know I just deleted the track, but you can see it's grayed out. It's still there. So Sibelius is still working. I like to put it on the top. Have everything in score order. Sibelius, woodwinds, brass, percussion, strings. That's all you need for ReWire. Yeah. Okay, so after you have ReWire active within your session, you could just leave it. Like I said, you can delete the channel. It doesn't necessarily need to be there. If you don't want to delete it like I did, you know, the thing, you can just hide it if you want. But I just deleted the track because the instrument's still there. And as you can see, when we clicked on it, as if it were an instrument, see, Sibelius at the front, it gives us this option. Not all DAWs are the same with this. I like what Studio One has going on because they give you some options with it. I don't think Pro Tools does this. I think it just opens up Sibelius automatically and these options are already there. But what you want is to allow tempo signature changes, multiple MIDI outputs. Yes, definitely, if you have that option, check multiple MIDI outputs. And then you're going to open the application. And you see it opens it now as an instrument within your DAW. And I'll show you the difference. So in part 3, we made a template for Sibelius. I suggest you use that as the basis here. As you can see, for me, this comment section, I stuffed a lot into it. The most recent one I've been doing is, and I'll show you this one, my Studio Orchestra Pro, and Studio Orchestra blank. They're the same things. One just has all the instruments that I have in my DAW. The other one is just blank for anything I want to use. It's different than Studio Orchestra, but they use the same type of libraries. Blah blah. Anyways, like I said, oh yeah, and if you watched part 3, you know about the Spitfire thing. Watch part 3 to get informed. All right, so I'm gonna open up the Symphony series one we made together in part 3. I think I changed mine up just a little bit. I added the percussion section in, but here's the whole thing. Now, if we open up Control-Alt-Y or Command-Option-Y, you see this transport in the top. And you have this new symbol. It looks like 2 wires are crossing each other. That's the ReWire symbol. That's what you want to see when Sibelius is active in your DAW. Now watch, I'm going to put these side by side. Get rid of the mixer, get rid of that, and then I'm just going to hit play. And you see they're both acting at the same time. That's great. That's great. That's exactly what we want to happen, is no matter what the tempo is, or let me pull up the tempo. And then let's draw something that slows down, starting at measure 2, going to measure 3. And then back up to normal. Watch this, watch this. You see it all lined up. Very nice. But the tempo didn't change on here. We'll get into that a little bit more with Sibelius. Essentially, you kind of have to mirror it if you want, but there's a workaround depending on how you want your workflow to go. So now that we have this open, we are going to need to recreate a playback configuration, much of how like we did in part 3. Okay, so this is going to be the same thing as what we did in part 3. So I'm going to, like I said, blaze through this section, because if you watch part 3, you already know what's up. If not, watch part 3, come back and get into this. Otherwise, slow down or whatever you need to do. So let's start with I'm gonna change it. Okay, so I just have this test group because in case I want to do something like this. So we're gonna go to new. We're gonna name this. I like to differentiate my ReWire stuff from my other stuff. So as you can see right here, I have Symphony Series Orchestra, right? But then up here, I have all these ReWire stuff. I have ReWire Symphony. And I like to have that difference because you make a mistake and you're loading up instruments and it just takes more time. So make sure that when we create a new one, we're going to call it ReWire or whatever you want to call it. But just to be clear, I'm going to call it ReWire. And then Symphony Orchestra. Man, I can't type today. Now I'll call it Symphony Orchestra because I already have ReWire Symphony on here. And this is just for you guys. So over here in your available devices, you're going to see the device. Like, you're going to see all the virtual MIDI cables you made. And that's why I have so many up here, because not just instruments, but it's also virtual MIDI cables. So you're going to add it. You can highlight it and hit activate. And as you can see, it disappears. So you won't be able to use it twice. But stuff like when we did the part 3, you could add contact and complete control as much as you want. You can add all those all day. But virtual MIDI cables, you can only add one. Brass. Next is percussion. And you see I have percussion and percussion toys. Difference, yeah. And lastly, strings. Next, we're gonna use the sound set that we have been using. Sorry, Symphony Series. Double click on where the name is. Symphony Series. Symphony Series. Save it. Boom. You can't really show it because it has no interface. So it's just connecting one thing to another. That's it. Next, we're gonna go to Symphony Series, blah blah blah. Go to the top, flutes, apply, and some ungodly amount of speed. Go now. Okay. So after that mini musicless montage, let's go over it real quick. Everything's in score order. Flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons. Flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons. Perfect. Brass, horns, trumpets, trombones, tubas. Perfect. I'm going to skip the string, or skip percussion, go to strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you know, that's kind of obvious anyways. Lastly, percussion. We got, great. We got timpani, orchestral percussion kit, Glock, Xylo, vibes, marimba, tubular bells, celesta. So, I was right the first time. Switch those up. Awesome, awesome. Lastly, preferred sounds. You don't necessarily have to do this, but actually, watch this, hack. Hack time. Win, wins. Brass, brass. Strings, strings. Unpitched is referring to percussion. And pitched, also referring to percussion. Boom. Save. And that's it. We're good. So if you don't know, I'll give you an example of the strings. So it's showing that the program with the sound ID of strings.violin.violin 1 is going to be on channel 1. 2 is channel 2, viola is channel 3, cello is channel 4, bass is channel 5. So if we open up the mixer in Sibelius, again, if you want to know all these little things, watch part 3. As you can see, this happens with the string sometimes. It's on channel 1. I'm just going to move this to channel 2. Now we hit play again. Boom, channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the strings. Flute, channel 1, oboe 2, 3, 4. Horn is channel 2, trumpet's channel 1, trombone's channel 3, 4. So I didn't put the brass section necessarily in score order, but you know, it still corrects itself, and we have what we have in our DAW. Horns, trumpets, whoops. So everything is lined up. We only had to make one tiny little change in the strings, but other than that, everything is exactly where it should be. Hey, this is me from the future. I already made the video, but I forgot this part, which is kind of important. So before you go to set up anything, or before you play anything really, head to no input, input devices, and then you have to deselect all of your virtual MIDI cables, all of them, because if you don't, you're going to get a feedback loop, and is going to hurt your system. So make sure you deactivate all this stuff. You see brass, percussion, strings, woodwinds, they're all deactivated. Make sure you do that. Very important. So congratulations, it's done. Like, it's ready for you to start playing with. There's a few caveats to, you know, adapting to this certain play style. One, you're not gonna have, you need to have either listen through bus or record enable turned on to hear the instruments in Sibelius through this. So we're just gonna turn on the listen bus. Group, let me group these up. Okay. I have the mixer open so you can see the sound, because I don't think any sounds coming through. I don't know why. I got a weird setup, but whatever. We'll be able to see it all. So, first of all, the listen input, listen through, whatever, has to be turned on, as if you're, listening to a microphone without recording it. 2, you cannot control, like you can't write any music in your DAW. If you want to write music in your DAW, you have to change the input of the specific instrument to do so. 3, you have to click on the instrument in Sibelius before you start playing with it. The way I like to do it is whatever instrument I'm going to work with, I click on it, highlight it, and then click off. It's going to remember the last instrument that you touched, essentially. So now it's on the flutes. And if I do that, click off, now it's on the oboes. The reason why I click off is because if you start hitting the keyboard, it's going to start inputting notes if you just have like a default setting on. So sometimes I just want to listen to what my ideas are on that certain instrument, and I'll just click on that, and let's see. As you can see, we had audio coming in the flutes as well as MIDI data. But now let's actually write some music. Let's see. Alright, so just a little lick right here for the flutes. But also, since we created our own sound set and now we're using it, it gets even cooler than that. If you just have that, then it's gonna do the default, right in the middle. That's your MIDI. The middle volume, middle velocity is gonna do all that. So let's soften it up. Let's give it piano, and then let's have it crescendo up to that B. Have a crescendo up there, and then we're going to have it decrescendo afterwards into this. Now, one little hack that I like to do is this. Watch. If you want something to go down, as far as like the quote unquote volume, then this is one thing you could do. You can leave off the very last value. So let's make this whatever. And then you would give a dynamic value to this rest. So we're going to say pianissimo, and then we're going to hide it. We're going to highlight where we want to decrescendo from, go all the way down, and you see it stops right there. But then watch, when you add that back, it's going to still be there. So it's going to decrescendo, but if you want to give it a specific spot to decrescendo, that's one way to do it with, the utmost accuracy. Otherwise, it'll still decrescendo, but it won't be as accurate. So let's open this up. Ugh, my screen's too crowded, y'all. Screen is way too crowded. Give me a sec. Let me see. Yeah. That still looks crowded to me. But we'll work with it. You guys only need to see the flutes. So boom. All right, let's do this. Back at the beginning. So, what did we learn? We see that is not changing the dynamics. But it is changing the articulations. For some reason, sometimes channel 1 doesn't do what it's supposed to do. In these cases, I like to move it to the very last channel. So in our case, after channel 4 where the bassoons are, I'm going to move this one to channel 5. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Whoops, play tab. Manual sounds, woodwinds, channel 5, flutes, apply, save. And then just move this up to channel 5. Let's see how it works now. Alright, that still did not solve it. So I don't think that's the problem. I think I do know what the problem is. And the problem is that after you make life-altering decisions for Sibelius like this, you gotta reset it, essentially. So just close it out entirely, and then you can either open Sibelius the normal way you usually do, or if you want to be safe, you can go into your DAW instrument and open Sibelius that way. I'm doing it this way just to be safe. So yeah, if you make life-altering decisions for Sibelius like that, you need to reset it. I should have told you that to begin with. I'm just too excited and forgot. Let's go to reset, the test. You see, boom. Yes, we want to switch back to that configuration. So let's try it again. Let's see. I don't want to embarrass myself again, so I'm going to do it for the oboes. Yeah, just like that. Okay. Got it. All right, dare we try the flutes? I hope so. I hope this works. I'm not sure. Yeah. Sometimes you get it like that. I'm not going to do a workaround right now because we're doing this video. But moving into the last channel is a good thing. Another good thing is just maybe deleting the flutes entirely, adding a new one in. I said I wasn't going to do this. Let's see. Add that back. Screw it. Let's just do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. It won't let me go to 5. No, yeah. Yes. 5. Well, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. Just the last workaround that could possibly work is deleting the instrument and then adding a new one. Oh, snap. Wrong library. My bad. Yeah, so I don't know what it is. It usually works, but you know. Murphy's Law. But after that, hopefully it works for you. Didn't work for me this time. But as you can see, once you have your instruments in, you can start creating music. And it's for the percussion tab. It's a little bit different. This is one reason why, like I said, I liked Symphony Series percussion. So I wouldn't type in things like a D. As you can see, like nothing's happening with the percussion kit if I type that in. Oh, also it's not turned on. So it might have sound. Yeah. That might work. That might work for you. But I think that the more accurate way is to actually just hit your keyboard. So if you know what key like the bass drum is, in my case it's a C2, it'll come out like that. Now, the reason I say that is because notes have different note heads with the drum mapping stuff, and it maps these things automatically for you. So I'm just gonna hit a random one. See, that came up as a tam-tam, and you see the note heads a little bit differently. If you just hit A, nothing's happening. See? That's still the reverb tail from the tam-tam. So, hit it on your keyboard for percussion kits and just any percussion instrument in general. It'll do you a lot better. Lastly, let's look at these strings. I want to show you guys a little technique that I like. I'm just inputting some chords. Okay. And let's say you have this. You're like, oh, okay, this sounds cool in the strings. Let's turn the strings on first. Highlight it, and then you would go to no input, explode, 4 parts, yes. Use existing staves, 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect. And then in the bass, we go and I just quickly did that. So let's slur all those together. Group them by 2. And I'm pretty sure it'll work with this. Highlight everything for group activities, such as adding dynamics and crescendos. Boom. Piano, back to forte, up to forte, and then back down to piano. Let's watch these strings. Don't need that to ruin it. I sincerely don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but it's a beautiful chord progression, I promise. Now watch, I'm going to open up the... you see where it's going down? I'm going to do it again. They're all moving with it. Going back down. So I promise it works. I just got unlucky with that flute thing. I don't know. I usually would spend like hours, not hours, but just time to suss out what's wrong with it. Anyways, that's the demonstration. A few tips and tricks on how to get it done. Man, that's really it. Yeah. Part 4 complete. All right, guys, now that part 4 is complete, everything is set up. We're all good. So how do we get it into our DAW? Right? We just wrote this beautiful chord progression with these luscious strings, and They're sounding exactly how we want them to. But how do we get that into our DAW? It's very, very easy. Remember how I said to have listen record? Just have record enable turned on. And then go back to the beginning. Another pro tip I would have is to have a measure first before your music comes in. The reason for that is because it just gives Sibelius time to think and understand what's happening with each instrument. If you start right on it, you might have a few problems with things not sounding right or going to the right articulations for the most part. But if you have a measure starting before, you'll be all good. So return to 0, make sure you have record enable on, hit record. I didn't push stop. It automatically stops at the end of the music, which is a very cool feature. I like it a lot. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive just to see exactly what happened here. Let's pick an instrument. Violin. Oh, they're all buddies. They're all buddies in the group. This is break up that gang. How do I? Oh, nope. I thought. There we go. Alrighty. Double click. I just want to see this. This. Good. Excellent. And let's just look at violin 1. So we see that we have the notes here. And you notice that they are not entirely on the grid. The reason why is because in Sibelius, great. In Sibelius, when we were at the play option and performance, we have it at rubato. Mechanical would put it more on the grid, but we have it at rubato, so it humanizes it a little bit, right? So we got that. Let me zoom out and record all the notes. We have a little bit of space. Well, as far as the notes, you can see where the legato happens because the notes overlap each other, and then there's a space and then overlap, and that's where we legato those instruments. Let's. Oh, yes. Where is it? Okay, I guess right here. You see that right there? That is a key switch for us. You see it automatically recorded the key switch for us. I probably should have done some more articulations. Let's do that. Let's do it. Why not? Do it real quick. What articulations do we have available? It's been a while since I used this library. Sorry. Trills, tremolo, sordino, harmonics, staccato, spiccato, pits. Okay. So for this one, let's get rid of that slur and make it those 4. Wait. We'll make these pizzicato. And then right here, we'll go back to arco. And then this one, we will tremolo. Hopefully, it'll record all that. Let's see. Open the mixer so you can see it. Alrighty, let's check it out. Let's check it out. As you can already see, we have that first articulation that starts off everything. And then we have this one right here, which is pizzicato. Then we go back here, that's arco, and you notice the same key as that one. And then somebody didn't do something right in the sound set editor, because that should be just a single thing, and it should activate the key switch. Like I said, sometimes it's hit and miss sometimes, but for the most part, it's usually there. It's usually there. Lastly, once you're done in Sibelius and in your DAW, you want to exit out of Sibelius first. The reason why is because it'll still think it's in ReWire mode if you close out the DAW first. And then when you try to open Sibelius as a standalone, it's going to ask you to reset it again after you clean up everything. So it no longer thinks it's in ReWire mode. So just to avoid that altogether, make sure you exit out of Sibelius entirely first, and then save your DAW, exit out of there. Hey, you know how I love to reward those who stick around for my videos. So this is going to be a little technique that I developed. So what we did originally was write stuff in Sibelius, get into the DAW, right? Easy. Easy. But what about the other way around? That is not so easy. It took me a while to figure this one out. But I'm going to show you guys for free today. No charge, I promise. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our virtual MIDI cables, and we're going to create one specifically for the purpose of sending MIDI from your DAW into Sibelius. I call this ReWire. Okay, that's what this MIDI port is about. So once you have that in your DAW, make sure it's activated. Make sure you route it to something. I call this one specifically, where is it? It's near the top. ReWire. Okay, and just for Studio One users, or for anyone really, you want to add this not as a keyboard, but as like an external MIDI device or instrument. Not a control surface, not a keyboard, somewhere in between. Okay, so like I said, ReWire, and then we're going to call this Re-ReWire. And you're not going to put anything into the receive from. You're only going to do the send to, because we're only sending data. We're not receiving it. You're going to find that virtual MIDI cable, ReWire. Yeah, it's just saying that I already have one. You can do all channels or one channel. It doesn't really matter because everything is going to get sent to this one specific channel. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK. And boom, we have it. I'm going to delete this one because, you know, I already have one. Right there. I have it on one. I put MIDI clock start. I don't honestly know if that does anything. I was just testing it. So maybe. Who knows. But I did have it on and it worked fine. But yeah, that's what it looks like. Send to virtual MIDI cable, ReWire. MIDI channels all are one, doesn't matter. Okay, okay. So in your DAW, or first in Sibelius, we're gonna go back to no input devices. You remember how I said turn off all your virtual MIDI cables? This is the only one that you can leave on. So if Sibelius hasn't detected it yet, hit find new input devices, and it'll pop up. I'm not going to hit it because if I hit it, then it's going to check all the boxes of the ones that I don't want. But there it is. ReWire is set up like a MIDI keyboard here in Sibelius, but we know what it really is. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to not have an input. no input at all, meaning you're not going to hear the sound. But the output is going to rewire. You see, it just comes up as one thing. Now, whatever instrument you're going to send the data to, that's the only one that needs to be record enabled. Because if you record enable two things, it's going to send both of those. And I'll demonstrate with one and I'll demonstrate with two. So yeah, the reason why I don't usually do it is because this is very, very finicky. It's almost not worth it, but you know, maybe one of you guys can refine it better than I can. Okay? So once you have it highlighted, send to is getting sent to, or the output is going to rewire. That is getting sent to Sibelius. And now you're going to highlight the instrument that you want to receive. So just like that, violin 1. And then in Sibelius, not in your DAW, in Sibelius, you're going to go up to the transport and hit the record button. And watch this. Oh, wait. Rewind. Pause. Before you do that, make sure everything is quantized as much as you can. Hit Q to quantize it. I'm going to quantize the end as well. We'll see. This is just to get it to look as neat as possible. All right, so once you get it done, quantized, selected the instrument in your DAW, select the instrument in Sibelius, hit record in Sibelius. You won't hear any sound. Well, I'm hearing sound, but you generally won't hear any sound. Okay, and you see it recorded the notes, and it has all this grayed out text. That is essentially the piano to forte, back to piano with a crescendo, diminuendo in between. That's what all that's recording. You can either keep it there, highlight it. I held shift down and then click and drag, and it gets all that and deletes it. Or if you still want to keep that there, go to view, and then up at the top, hidden objects, and it'll essentially disappear. It's still there. Watch. See? But yeah, you won't see with your naked eye. All right. Lastly, after you got all that done, we are going to quantize this within Sibelius to make it look nice. That's why I said to quantize it in your DAW first, because you wanted to get it looking as nice as possible. Go up to note input, then hit renotate performance. And it'll give you all these options. Generally, it's pretty good about, you know, knowing what's right. So hit OK, and boom. Let's get rid of that. That's exactly what we had in our DAW. Now let me show you. I'm going to undo the changes. So that's unquantized, the front and end part. Okay. Delete that. Let's record it again. You can already see a difference. It's recording in two voices right now. The reason why it's recording in two voices is because in our DAW, we have notes that overlap each other. See? Right there. And it's an easy fix. Same as always. But it just looks more messy. Whoa, my bad. Push the wrong button in Sibelius. Where am I? Okay. So right here, and then just go back to no input, renotate performance, blah blah. You can either keep it as two voices or not. You know, let's go with not. And same results. It went back to normal. So it almost doesn't matter, but you know, just to look nice. I like it to look nice. Let me delete all these other measures real quick. All right, lastly, let me show you what happens if you accidentally leave two of these on at the same time. Even if this other one isn't going to rewire, I believe it'll still do two notes. No, it'll just do one. That's fine. Cool. So yeah, I recommend if you're gonna do this one instrument at a time. Again, super not helpful, but yeah. Another thing that you can do, you see, you recorded both the violins. Renotate. Let's do just do that. See, it kept two voices. So I was just thinking, what you can do actually is set them all up as a ReWire instrument, or going to the ReWire, and then all of it with no inputs. Yeah. Have them all record enable, and it won't split it up. Like if we highlight all these, it won't split it up. I guess it'll split up after four. After four voices, it'll split it up. But I wonder if you just do this. If you just do one. Yeah, it's still got the bass in it. So anyways, watch. I know this looks ugly, right? This works with, whole notes and stuff. I'm not sure about, more intricate melodies and whatnot. So let's say we have all that. Let's renotate the performance. So boom, we got that, and then if we go to explode, it's only going to explode 4 notes at a time. So let's go home, filter the bottom note, copy, delete, paste, and then right here we'll highlight that, note input, explode, 4 voices, specific staves, they already are there, and just like that, we got it. So that's how to get stuff from Sibelius into your DAW, and then from your DAW into Sibelius. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unlocking Sibelius. I know it's been a big, long ride, but you guys made it through, and I hope that you've learned something about how I write music. If you want to see more, I'll be posting up, demonstrations or tutorials, walkthroughs on how I'm scoring things. Just please spread this information around. If it helps anyone to write music more efficiently, I definitely want to help with that. If you have any questions or if something goes wrong, let me know. I'll help out as much as I can. If it becomes too big of a problem, then I'll make a video showing the solution. I've dealt with this for about 3 years now, developing this method, and I've been wanting to share it with everyone for about a year. So thanks again, and see you in the next video.